Internet, the psychologist casual review, and today we're going to be reviewing The Dead Mother, an article written by André Green, a French psychoanalyst and psychiatrist. So in this work, André Green is going to present one of his main theories, or one he's the most famously known for, i.e. the dead mother, which was later called dead mother syndrome or dead mother complex. So what is it about? Well, André Green is going to basically go back to the primordial relationship between a mother and the infant. Here we're talking about really the very first years of life and that very special, very intense relationship. So what is going to happen for André Green is that it's not about the mother as a person dying per se. So it's not about grieving a dead mother, so to speak. It's more about when the child is born, or a bit before or a bit after, the mother is going to experience a deep sense of grief. That grief that she feels is going to carry on in the relationship with the baby. So for Green, what's going to happen is basically the mother is not going to be there, not being able to mentally invest the child in the best possible way. And he explains it's not the fault of the mother because she's grieving, she's undergoing psychological pain. Unfortunately, the baby is wrapped up into it because it's such an intense relationship. So in this moment, what's going to happen is that the baby is going to absorb that grief, that pain. So mother is unfortunately unable to be there. This creates a dynamic in which baby tries to reactivate mother, but unfortunately most of the time fails because mother is not reactivatable, i.e. she cannot be repaired. Even though baby might make the best efforts, might be a perfect, ideal baby, it's not going to work. And that's the tragedy of this syndrome, is that whatever the baby does, it's not going to work out. So what happens is the baby tries to merge with mother, because the baby is taken into many sets of different problems because of this preoccupation that the mother has towards the dead object. She cannot be there fully for the baby. Therefore, she cannot lend her mental life, her reverie, her ability to daydream and to share this common daydream with baby. So baby has to basically identify with mother, but he's not identifying to mother as an object or as a person. He's identifying with the grief mother feels. And therefore, he's identifying with something that is inherently pathological, because he's not investing in a person, he's investing in someone who's already gone. Therefore, there's nothing there, and that identification creates a whole set of problems, because afterwards that feeling of attachment is going to be stranded because of it. So what's going to happen is that baby is going to identify to the dead individual, to the mother that is grieving, and to himself as empty. So these three sets of identifications are going to put baby in a very complicated situation, because baby is not going to be able to invest mother, but he's also not going to be able to attack her. When I mean attack here, I'm going to have to be very clear. It's not about baby hurting mother. It's about baby just expressing the normal aggression that it feels. For example, sins like biting the breast or being unhappy. All of these normal procedures of aggression that are normally taken into the relationship and digested by the mother and accepted, or even sometimes verbalized, like, oh, you're hurting me, or don't do that, it hurts. All of these things are a bit lost because baby can't even do it. So baby can't express the aggression, meaning that the aggression is never basically digested by the relationship, meaning baby is stuck with the feelings of aggression within him, and they can't be put out or basically shared with the outside environment. So this is going to create a whole problem for the baby, because baby in a very early stage might remember a time, or when I mean remember, let's get this very straight, it's not conscious, right? It's at the deepest of the unconscious, that might even be more sensory than anything conscious, right? So baby might recall on a sensory level that mother at some point was available. And so therefore there's always going to be an excitement of, or what if in a new relationship I can get this new person to be available for me? What can happen is that I can finally get someone to be perfect, then they will take care of me and I will be able to grow as a person, i.e. set back the clock and repeat the events in order to heal. However, the problem is that the individual that is seen as perfect never truly does that. It never really occurs or happens, because as soon as there's contact, baby's going to be afraid of contact, because basically that state of the dead mother is the only thing they know. So changing that state is going to be incredibly difficult. And in adulthood, because as they grow, those children are going to become adults. And as adults, basically they're going to have attachment issues, because they're not going to be able to let the dead mother go, because letting her go is basically like being aggressive and saying, stop it, I want to live my life, you're out of the system. And that's not possible, because mother's too fragile, she's already grieving. Therefore, the baby and now adult has to merge with the maternal imago in order to protect it and save it. Therefore, finding someone new or new object is very complicated. And even if they feel the excitement, once they're in the relationship with that other person, let's say the spouse or the wife, it's going to become incredibly complicated and even very effortful, because basically the connection is very difficult, because once they start to connect, they might feel that they might lose the person they're having. So there's a protection. They don't necessarily want the relationship, or they might destroy it, because they're so afraid of the change it will create within them, and that it will make mother go forever, because basically that would be like letting mother go, and that's not possible. So therefore they're stuck. And André Green says that you might think as a therapist that if the mother dies in the real world, that might help these people, but that's wrong, because if mother dies, then everything gets crystallized, because there's a deep hope in baby or in the adult that suffered from the dead mother, that at some point mother is going to be able to get through it and then reinvest the baby as the baby should have been invested, i.e. with reverie, with daydreams, with fun, with happiness, with love, and all these things that were blocked by the mother's grief of another person. And that other person can be anyone. It can be a previous child, it can be a husband, it can be a father, it can be an uncle. You get it, right? The spectrum is very wide. But the idea is that grief has prevented something of a connection, and that prevented connection is going to be there throughout all the relationships. And it's not because mother dies truly that it stops anything, or quite the opposite, it worsens, because at that point the real hope in the real world is lost. Therefore the only hope left is internal, intrapsychic, meaning that basically the person is going to hold on to it even more thoroughly, because it's the only thing left. The only hope is internal, it's no longer external. André Green says that these people often in the very early childhood, because you might think, but wait, well, isn't there the father or the other caregiver that could help, or someone of the family? And André Green is very explicit about this, that often father is invested like another hope. However, that father is unable to save mother from the grief and unable to save the child, meaning that this system continues. Therefore, father is not a savior, even though baby might first and foremost think that if I can get father to do it, he might be able to fix mum. But that doesn't work, because father is at a loss also. So André Green does not go into great details about it, but we can think perhaps father is also implicated in the grief. Perhaps he's also experiencing it, living through it, and feeling it. Or perhaps he's too, how can I say, respectful or tactful to help his wife. Or maybe the father himself is defensive and wants to protect himself. Therefore, he basically shuts off himself to mother and baby, leaving the baby and the mother alone in this dyad. Meaning that for André Green, there is no Oedipal complex, like father comes in and stops the dyad. In this system, it goes on. The dyad goes on until adulthood internally. And that's what leads to attachment issues. Because if you're never able to separate, if you enter adulthood without that ability, it's going to be very hard to create attachments and stable ones at that, because partners are going to be or a threat to the dying mother-child, internalized, right? And second of all, the partner might be seen as a destructive force. So it's very complicated. And on the other side of the spectrum, the partner might be merged with mother, which just basically continues a cycle, right? So there's no change. Very interestingly enough, for Green, the people that come with that syndrome of the dead mother in therapy often don't transfer on the analyst, very interestingly enough, but transfer on the setting, i.e. they transfer on the process of analysis, and they expect a lot of sins of analysis, and often they end up disappointed because it doesn't go as far or as transformative as they want, because it's very complicated, because a part of them does not want to renounce that dyad and is afraid of it, because that would be like pushing mother in the grave as well with her dead object, which is something the infant has fought against all his life. Therefore, it's very difficult. So, very fundamentally, for Green, there is no easy way out. It's a long deconstruction of the imago that's going to happen, and something that analysis is going to be arduous at best. So he doesn't insist a lot on treatments. He does go into the transference and how complicated it might be. However, we can speculate, and this is more my opinion, that the importance in this is that to be able to unfuse both mother and child, to give to the patient a form of vitality that he's been awaiting so long through the relationship with the therapist, through the interpretations, and also to try and stimulate the aggression, because that's also part of and parcel of separation is aggression. Like, you're not me and I kind of hate you for it. That's important. Of course, there has to be limits to aggression, right? I mean, you can't let our aggression just take over our whole personality, but it's very useful because it allows us to split out of the relationship, and that's important. So therefore, fostering that sense of aggression in a patient that has a dead mother complex is essential, according to me. Also, and this is also a point that I try to work with people who have that syndrome, is try and slowly deconstruct the ideal of a perfect relationship, of that lively mother that they imagine, or that they have kind of confused memories of, because the possibility is always there that mother might reactivate. Therefore, she might be switched on and she might be there to fully embrace baby's needs. But in reality, that very rarely, if ever, happens. And lastly, this article ends on a very interesting note, in which Green basically says that a very famous man has suffered from this condition, at least according to him, and that very famous man is none other than Sigmund Freud. So apparently, Sigmund Freud's mother had lost a child before him, and that child, Julius Freud, basically never. Basically, I don't remember if it was a miscarriage or if he died in very early in childhood. But the thing is that mother was very preoccupied in the very first years of life of Freud. Like, I think his brother died when he was 1.5. So the whole speculation of Green is that Freud himself, because Freud was always incapable of attacking his mother or even conceptualizing the relationship with mother as an aggressive one, from man to mother, right? Boy to mother. That basically Freud himself was under this complex where he could not free himself of his dead mother. He could not basically push her into the grave with her dead object. He had to basically support her, stand her. And that idealization of the relationship between mother and child that Freud has is basically due to the fact that he remembers maybe a moment where his own mother could have been there for him, could have loved him, and started the process of creating a good relationship, but unfortunately it stopped when Julius died, meaning that Freud was unable to rekindle with his mother. Of course, this is only a hypothesis, right? No one really knows because, no one analyzed Freud fundamentally, and even if we did, it's only speculative. But I found it very interesting that he ended the article on this note that Freud was most likely suffering from this complex, which, at least from my eyes, seems completely relevant and seems to be very cogent with what I know of Freud, which indeed he could not attack mother's figure. Even when she was in her 90s, he still had to go there like a little boy and bring her gifts. So there was something in separation that did not work out. And as Green points out, the whole point of the because the dead mother is catastrophic, but the dead father is part of the Oedipus. Therefore, attacking father is okay, right? But attacking mother, very complicated. And we can perhaps think that Freud himself could attack father because he was disappointing and did not save him from the dyad, but also because basically he is resentful of his father from not saving him, which made that his aggression was turned only towards a father, where in truth normally both parents suffer from aggression of the child, right? So basically that's pretty much it for the dead mother. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to say, please leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.